one of the biggest fears that people face when they consider the prospect of astral travel is the fear of leaving the body. Because when we think of leaving the body, there is an unconscious association with the fear of death. And so when you leave your body astrally, one of the first things you do, you look back at your body and you see your body laying there. And that can be disconcerting to people, and it causes them, in some cases, to be popped right back in the body. So what I suggest is that you try late at night at a time when you would normally be asleep, say 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and you lie there and you wake yourself up, and then you lie there as you're in bed, rested and relaxed, and you allow yourself to almost go to sleep, but just before you go to sleep, feel yourself rising out of your body as though you were trying to get up without moving. And I find that that is the easiest time and the easiest technique for most people to have their first experience with astral travel. Essentially, you get up, you set your alarm clock, you get up about 3 or 4 in the morning. It seems to be that the astral energies at that time are easiest to work with and what we call ride. And you feel yourself, or you push yourself out of your body, which is essentially imagining that you're getting up while you're lying down, and you will feel yourself begin to pull away from your body. It is essential, though, that you don't look back, and you also try not to go into a place that you might not normally walk into when you're awake, such as don't try to walk through a wall, don't try to walk into a mirror, don't try to do something that you wouldn't normally do when you're awake, and your astral experience should progress from there.
Now, some people say when you do that separation from your body, out of it, that the vibration is totally different, and you will hear like a real loud noise. Is that true?
I think I've astral traveled probably a few thousand times at this point. I think what they may be referring to is when you're out of your astral form, when you're out of your physical body, it's a bit like taking off your coat in cold weather. Your astral form is one of the major energy forms that animate the body. Well, when you leave the physical body and you go into the astral form, you take with you part of your emotions and part of your thoughts. But without the density of the physical body, you become more sensitive to what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And to some people, if they don't have a good grasp of their emotions or their thoughts, they might hear it as a roaring or a rushing sound, but what they're really hearing are their own thoughts and their own internal dialogue, so to speak. But as you become more accustomed to the process, your internal dialogue and your internal thoughts, your internal emotions tend to calm down over time, and it doesn't become such a distraction. Well, when I leave the physical body, there are certain places that I go to on a regular basis, and there are certain places that I try to explore that are just as huge as you might imagine an entire planet to be. I've seen places that we could call heaven or heaven-like. Those places do exist. But I also have noticed that there are many dimensions that are immediately adjacent to ours that look exactly like our world. And there are also places that look like places out of books, like science fiction texts or places that you would see in movies. And so it almost as though that if you can concentrate on something that you feel exists, if you focus on it strong enough before you leave your body, you can find a place that it very closely approximates that in the astral world. That what we hold and what we believe inside most strongly is often manifested in the spiritual world and the astral world as what we experience.
When you travel over there, is there any chance of getting stuck and you can't get back in your body?
The only way that you could get stuck, and as I've said, I've traveled for decades now and done thousands of astral journeys. The only way you could get stuck is if someone who had significant spiritual knowledge were able to bind or cut your astral cord. And the astral cord is a very thin, almost spider-like filament that connects your hara, which is an energy center just a little bit below your navel, to your physical body. And someone would have to know what it looks like. They'd have to know how to bind it or cut it, and it would have to be something that would be done deliberately. Now, if a person obviously dies in their sleep, there are beings that are assigned to each individual to carry you from one life or one destination to another. But to get trapped there in an astral journey, somebody, from my experience, would have to do that or try to hurt you on purpose. Well, each night when we go to sleep, the astral form leaves the physical body. We all astral travel, and the experiences that we have, that we call dreams, are actually the remembrances of what our astral or soul form is doing in other dimensions. And in some cases, there are periods of time where we go through a certain type of paralysis where the body temperature does drop to a certain extent, breathing becomes very slow, and some people look like they've stopped breathing, but they actually are not. They haven't stopped breathing. The breathing has just become very slow and very deep. But for the most part, that's normal. All of us go out of the body. All of us travel into different dimensions. And when we leave the body, the physical body is paralyzed, because if the paralysis doesn't happen, something happens in the physical body that the physical body can begin to act out what you're doing in a dream. And if that happens, then there have been cases where people will, for instance, feel that they're hunting for a deer, and they'll get up and they'll try to tackle a dresser, or they feel that they're throwing a football and they might be throwing a lamp. And in those cases, you have to give a person medication to subdue them while they're dreaming so they don't get up and act out their dreams. But that paralysis is normal. When you're on the other side, are you actually like walking or floating, or how is it like? That depends on the paradigm and the advancement of your consciousness. When you're on the other side, if you're most comfortable walking, then that's what you're going to do. Some people are not comfortable with the sensation of flying. After you've gone there for a while, you notice that most people don't walk or fly. The way that most people I've seen travel in the astral world is through the medium of thought. So if you think about being in Paris, once you've developed a facility for controlling your astral body, you go from where you are to Paris. Initially, when people go there and they wake up there in the astral world, they fly, or they walk around, or they get in a car and drive. But after you're there a while, you find that, I don't have to fly, I don't have to get in a car. You can just think about it and be there. And even more efficiently, when you get an even higher degree of control over it, you can sit in a room and you can say, I would like this room now to be a cafe in Buenos Aires. And it turns into a cafe in Buenos Aires. So the reality in the astral world conforms a great deal more to your thought than the reality in the physical world. When you're traveling like this, do your loved ones who have already passed come and see you? Do they know you're traveling? Do they want to visit with you? Or yeah, one of the first things you notice is you can see your loved ones. They're still alive. They wonder why more people don't visit them. Because when you're astral travel, one of the first things you do is you start to act out some of your physical desires. And a very natural physical desire is to see people who have passed, to see people that you may have had relationships in the physical world with, old girlfriends, old wives, etc. And you can have contact with them in the physical body, and you will see people that have passed, and you kind of have to get used to it, because if someone's passed and you see them again, there's a bit of a shock to your system, and there's a tendency to want to distort the experience to say, well, maybe I dreamt about it, or maybe it was something that didn't happen. But after you get used to it, you find that it's something that you can experience over and over again. It becomes just like seeing them in the physical world. But yes, very much so. You do have experience with the people that have passed.